They didn't use those words, but you felt it. Every time you laughed too loud and saw their face shift. Every time you shared too deeply and the air in the room changed. Every time you cried and they looked away, not in cruelty, but discomfort. You started learning it early, didn't you? That parts of you were too strong for other people's silence, too alive for their numbness, too honest for their pretending. And somewhere along the way, you made the quietest, most painful decision of all, to turn yourself down. Not off, just down. Quieter, softer, smaller. You started calling it maturity. You thought you were growing up. But all you were doing was shrinking into a version of yourself more acceptable to people who didn't know how to hold the real thing. And tonight, while the rain falls and the world sleeps, I want to tell you something you were never meant to forget. You are not too much. You never were. And the people who told you that with words or glances or silence weren't revealing a truth about you, they were revealing a limit inside themselves. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." Maybe that's what happened to you. You were dancing, fully, freely, loudly, and the people around you, they couldn't hear the music, so they called you too much, too sensitive, too intense, too emotional, too open. But the truth is, they weren't ready for someone that real, and that's not your shame to carry. The cost of their emotional deafness is not your burden to wear, but I know you did wear it. I know you still do in quiet ways, like how you second-guess your excitement, how you shrink your joy just a little so it doesn't overwhelm anyone, how you hold your tongue even when your heart is screaming to speak. You've been taught that being palatable is safer than being whole, but wholeness isn't a luxury, it's your birthright. And this story, tonight, is your permission to remember that. We'll walk slowly, you and I, through the places where you began to disappear. Through the relationships that felt like home until they asked you to leave parts of yourself at the door. Through the moments when you confused love with comfort and acceptance with tolerance. You won't be blamed. You won't be shamed. This isn't about judgment. It's about witnessing. Letting your nervous system feel maybe for the first time in a long time that you're allowed to exist without diluting yourself. You'll learn that your intensity is not a flaw. It's an indicator of depth. Your sadness, proof of your empathy. Your passion, evidence of your aliveness. You'll see slowly that what you called too much was exactly the part of you that someone somewhere has been praying to find. But tonight, we don't chase them. Tonight, we come back to you. It happens so slowly, so silently. One day, you just stop talking about the things that make your eyes light up. Not because you don't love them anymore, but because you're tired of the way people blink when you do. You start asking yourself questions before you even speak. Will this make them uncomfortable? Am I being dramatic? Will they think I'm too intense again? And so, your sentences get shorter. Your stories get safer. You begin curating yourself not out of manipulation, but survival. And then, over time, you don't just feel like you're too much for other people. You begin to feel like you're too much for yourself, that your feelings are too heavy, that your needs are too complicated, that even your own thoughts take up more space than you deserve. This is where it turns inward, where the world no longer needs to quiet you, because now you're doing it for them. Nietzsche once wrote, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." And you did fight. You fought to be understood, to be heard, to be seen. But somewhere in that fight, you turned on yourself. You began to believe that your pain was a burden, that your emotions made you unstable, that needing others was weakness, so you became your own monitor, your own censor. You didn't just feel pain, you judged yourself for it. You didn't just feel joy, you worried it was too loud. You didn't just cry, you apologized for the tears before they even fell. And this constant inner filtering, it's exhausting. It's not the exhaustion of a long day. It's the soul tiredness of a heart that has never been fully held, not even by yourself. And yet, here you are, still gentle, still open, still searching. You could have hardened. You could have become cold, distant, untouchable, but you didn't. Even in your self-editing, even in your pain, you still care. You still want to connect, and that says everything, because the goal was never to become less emotional. The goal was to feel safe enough to be emotional. And maybe tonight, you're starting to remember that your sadness isn't shameful, that your overthinking is just love without direction, that your depth is not dysfunction, it's design. You weren't built to be half present. You weren't made to be digestible. You weren't born to be tolerated. The fire in you, the one that flickers under your quiet, careful mask that is not a problem to solve, it's a gift waiting to be re-met, slowly, tenderly, without rush. The world told you to calm down, but what you needed was someone to stay calm while you opened up. And tonight, that someone can be you. There's no applause, no sudden clarity. It's not dramatic. In fact, it's so quiet you almost miss it. But one night, maybe like this one, you speak your truth not louder than usual, just without apology. And no one claps, no one cheers. But inside your chest, something unlocks. And for the first time, it doesn't matter whether they understand. You finally do. You don't need your feelings to be justified anymore. You just need them to be yours. You sit with your sadness and stop labeling it as weakness. You name your joy without needing someone else to echo it. You remember something so simple, so radical, it almost feels rebellious. It is okay to feel everything, even the messy parts, even the parts that contradict each other. You can be hopeful and tired, grateful and grieving, peaceful and angry, all at once. You are not broken for feeling deeply. You are not unstable for having range. You are not too much for holding intensity in your hands and still choosing gentleness. Nietzsche said that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. And maybe tonight you're rediscovering your why, not because someone gave it to you, but because in these quiet moments you are beginning to live without armor. And it doesn't look heroic. It looks like this. You let the tears fall, and you don't rush to dry them. You sit with your own silence, and you don't fill it with noise. You walk away from people who only love the edited version of you, and you don't run back when the loneliness hits, because it will. That's the truth. When you stop bending to fit into people's comfort, some of them will leave, or grow distant, or look at you like you changed. But you didn't change. You just stopped shrinking. And the space you've reclaimed, it feels empty at first. But that emptiness, it's not lack. It's room. Room for new people. Room for new beliefs. Room for a version of you that you buried long ago, waiting for someone to say, "It's okay, come out now." And that someone is finally you. The version of you that's not watered down, not controlled, not filtered through a lens of acceptability, just real. And that version doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. Its presence is the message. Its calm is the proof. And little by little, the guilt starts to fade. The urge to explain softens. You start seeing your emotions not as threats to connection, but as bridges to the right kind of connection. The ones where you don't have to shrink to be loved. The ones where you don't have to whisper to be heard. The ones where your too much feels like finally enough. They won't always say it. In fact, most of them won't say anything at all. But you'll feel it. You'll feel it when their responses grow colder, shorter, more delayed. You'll feel it when you start showing up as your full self and their energy quietly steps back. It's subtle. No doors slam, no words are thrown, but something shifts. And if you're not careful, you'll think you did something wrong, but you didn't. You just stopped doing something familiar. You stopped playing small. You stopped agreeing out of habit. You stopped nodding when your heart screamed no. And they noticed. Not consciously, maybe, but emotionally, they felt it, the weight of your return to yourself. And it made them uncomfortable. Because for some people, your smallness was their safety. Your silence was their comfort. Your compliance was the glue that held the illusion together. Now that it's cracking, they call it distance. But the truth is, you're just no longer available for being misunderstood on purpose. And that's growth. Nietzsche once warned, the surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. You've been praised before for your ability to go along, to not disturb the waters, to blend. But blending isn't belonging, and harmony built on your silence is not peace, it's quiet oppression. So, now you speak, not aggressively, not out of spite, but because you can't live inside your own denial anymore. And those who love the easy version of you, they begin to fade. They don't fight, they just vanish slowly. Ghosting, emotionally or otherwise. And it hurts, because you wanted someone to cheer for the real you, to say finally, you're home. But their absence becomes your answer. You learn something no one teaches you in time. Not all silence is kindness. Not all acceptance is real. And not everyone who claps for your healing is willing to grow with you. So you grieve. You grieve the friendships that were only safe as long as you stayed small. You grieve the moments you once mistook for love that were really just emotional transactions. And in that grieving, you clear space. It's lonely at first, yes, but loneliness isn't always a void. Sometimes it's a detox, a necessary silence, the kind that allows your nervous system to finally breathe without tiptoeing. And slowly, so slowly, new voices begin to arrive. People who don't flinch at your truth, who aren't scared of your passion, who don't need you to explain your softness or your sadness or your dreams. These people don't want half of you. They want you. And the best part, you don't have to convince them. You just show up, and they stay. Not because you've earned it, but because they've done their own work too. And that is the kind of love your younger self didn't know was possible. It won't feel like fireworks. It won't arrive in a grand moment. It'll be ordinary, quiet, almost forgettable. You'll be brushing your teeth, folding laundry, looking out a window, and it will hit you. I don't feel like I have to explain myself anymore. You won't realize when it stopped. Maybe it happened the night you let yourself cry without rushing. Maybe it was when someone asked, "How are you?" and you actually answered. Or maybe it happened in pieces, slowly, every time you chose to stay instead of shrink. But one day, without a ceremony, you will feel it. You've come back to yourself, not the version you invented to be liked, not the version who filtered every emotion before speaking, not the one who asked, "Is this too much?" before every sentence, but the real one, the wild one, the deep one, the version of you who always felt everything in full color and who was told that was wrong. And suddenly you'll feel it in your body, a breath that goes deeper, a voice that sounds steadier, a silence that feels like presence, not punishment. Nietzsche wrote, You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. And for the first time, you don't fight the chaos. You don't label your emotions as mess. You don't beg someone to translate you into something simpler. You just let yourself be. You laugh louder. You pause longer. You love with your whole heart and don't apologize when it trembles. And the people who meet you here, they don't need you to be smaller. They don't need your intensity to come with a warning. They don't need you to disappear just to keep things easy. Because they've met their own shadows too, and they're not scared of yours. You'll still have moments of doubt. The ghosts of too much will still whisper. But now you'll smile at them. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with peace. Because you know now, they were never really talking about you. They were talking about their own limits. And you finally fully no longer live there. You live here, in your depth, in your softness, in your truth. Not perfectly, not always loudly, but freely. And tonight, as you lie back and let the rain carry you into rest, remember this: you were never too much. They were simply not ready. But now you are.